Amazing! Are we all enjoying our sea day so far? Perfect. All right, friends. So once again, we are here in the amazing Buena Vista Theater to hear someone pretty special that worked for our company for 44 years. He is incredible. He is amazing. He's show-stopping. We all love him. I love him. I actually asked him to adopt me. Give it up for Rob Morton!
We're going to need a bigger house. We've adopted so many of our son's friends. So before we get started today, I wanted to make sure that we focus on something that is much more important than anything that I'm going to share with you today. In the middle of the night last night, I got a text, and it was a text from a couple of cast members that we know that I would like to share with you. Now, it was intended initially for one person, but there are many others in this audience that, well, it's for you too, and you know who you are.
Happy Mother's Day to the best mom in the world. We love you so much. Enjoy your cruise.
Happy Mother's Day. So I'm just going to pause there. See, those are the pictures that we showed you earlier. I love how they position, and the real important thing is this right here. We'll come back to her later, okay? But good morning. I love that he's got this. It looks like they're looking at each other, and yeah, that's a bit much. Okay. All right. Well, so good morning, everybody. So this is part 5 in the series, and this is actually the last of the series. As I've shared in I'll talk more about our next session, but they're going to be a little bit different in how they're set up. But this is when you're doing something chronologically. We're now running out of time, so we're going to make this the last one that is chronological. So today we're going to talk about Singapore bound. It's not just about Singapore, but also what it was like to work over there. We're going to dive a little bit into the lessons that we learned from Paris and Hong Kong, because when I say Hong Kong Disneyland became my home Disney park, it absolutely did. And I lost count of how many times we went there, but hey, if we wanted to go do an immersive experience in a theme park, that's where we were going. Also got to do quite a bit in Tokyo as well, and I'll talk about my opportunity to work with Shanghai Disney as well, however, albeit before it opened. I'm going to share with you some Asia Pacific travel highlights, and again, if you're interested at all in ever taking a cruise on the Disney Adventure based in Singapore, if you make it that far, you're going to want to do something else. So we'll give you some highlights of that. So a little bit of the travelogue stuff, and then I'll share more about a little bit about what it was like to come back, and about what Disney retirement looks like, at least for this retiree. Oh, when we left last time, I had shared with you that killer question that our son Brian asked: where did Daddy live? And to say that I traveled a lot, I don't even know. It's hard to emphasize. So for those of you who are frequent travelers, those of you who get excited every time you get to a higher status on a airline or on a your hotel loyalty program or something, in 2010 I was a diamond medallion on Delta and the super secret global services on United in the same year. From what I was told by my finance buddies, that in all of Walt Disney Parks and Resorts for 2 or 3 years in a row, I was number 2 in travel expense behind our chairman. So, again, a lot of fun, but a lot of challenges. So what happened then was I made a decision that I either needed to find another job or Disney needed to send me and my entire family to the other side of the world, because it was the other side of the world is where I was spending most of my time. And fortunately, I didn't have to come to that ultimatum, but that was really where I was going. Before this, though, in the years, a couple of years before, we'd been teased a little bit with a possible relocation opportunity. One was to Japan, and one was to Paris, and neither one of those worked out. And then I'm in the office, one of the few days I was actually in the office. So imagine the karma that has to be in play here. I'm eavesdropping on a colleague's phone call. Don't judge me. And in the conversation, I heard them say Singapore. So when they finished the conversation, I walked next door to her office and I said, Liz, I just heard you say Singapore. What's going on? Oh, well, there's this company in Singapore that is interested in working with us, and they they need to upskill the service sector in Singapore, and they are looking for us to be a partner, and and we're going to go over there and we're going to meet with them and we're going to talk about what that could look like. You should come with us. Because I was the only one who had ever been to Singapore, and it was a quick trip back in 2005, and so I went on that trip. And I went back and forth 5 or 6 times the second half of 2010, and then in 2011 we got ready to make the move. This was moving day. Actually, I think this was when we thought we were moving, and then our flight got canceled and we had to recreate this the next day. For those of you who aren't familiar with Singapore, Singapore is located down here at the very tip of, it's called the Malaysian Peninsula, and you'll see it right there above the equator. See how close it is to the equator? I can, almost swim to it. And it's very, very small. This is Singapore. It is 7 times larger than Walt Disney World. That's it. And so very, very small, about 6 million people there, and a solid 1 million of those are expatriates, people from other countries. So we were going over there. I was going to be the presence for a training company. I was going to help them by providing them Disney Institute content to help train a number of clients, do some advisory consulting type work. And so basically they marketed and sold me. So they had a limited product. When I was there, Disney actually has an office. Now my office was with my client, but Disney has an office. It's the Walt Disney Company Southeast Asia office, and I'd like to show you this office building. It might look familiar. It is the Sandcrawler building, and it was originally the home of Lucasfilm in Singapore. So for those of you who are Star Wars fans, the Sandcrawler, it's what it looks, and when you're there, it's what it looks like, and it was a lot of fun. So Singapore is a very, very unique country. So I want to share with you some things that we really liked about it and what some of the challenges were in living there. Now, some of you may have heard some things about Singapore. It's known as a fine city, and I'm just going to let this sit up here for a couple of minutes. And there are certain things that are just not allowed, and there's some pretty stiff fines. And I got to tell you, the first time I went to Singapore, my only focus was not to get caught up in this. So I was reading up on, okay, I can't do this, I can't do this. Okay, it's not that bad. But what happens is it results in some of the things that we really loved about Singapore. It is clean. It is Disneyland clean. It is safe. And I always say, you could go, we live near the Singapore River, and you could go for a walk by the river at 2 o'clock in the morning and not worry about it. You wouldn't, every once in a while, it was big news if there was petty crime. And so we really loved that aspect of it. It is very multicultural, and it is the integration of all of these cultures and multiple religions was really inspiring. I had a 30-minute walk from where we lived to my client's office, and I would pass a Hindu temple, a Taoist temple, a Buddhist temple, a synagogue, a Catholic cathedral, 2 Protestant churches, and a mosque. And when everybody worked together, you know, they would plan menus for business meals and all this stuff. They needed to have kosher options. They needed to have halal options and everything. And it was all done. It was effortless. It was just the way it was. And it was lovely to see how people could come together and live together and work together. And it's a non-issue. It is absolutely a non-issue. So now we told our boys, it was Christmas time in 2010, we told them, okay, we're going to be moving to Singapore. You know, I've been traveling there all the time. We're going to do all of this. And we had this conversation with them, and then we got in the car, and we're driving down to South Florida to have the family Christmas with the rest of my family, who we now get to tell. And in the car, Brian is on the phone with a friend of his. Now, I guess 7 years old, maybe 8. And he knew some things about Singapore, things that I had told him, but he also had a classmate at school that had a shirt with this on it. And he's having this conversation in the back seat, and he's just talking, very just matter of fact, we're moving to Singapore, I may not have any money when I come back from there because they have a lot of fines there. And so he hangs up the phone, and then I go, Brian, are you worried about not having any money when we come back from Singapore? And he goes, yes. I said, Brian, you need to understand something. You don't have any money now. Oh, and then one of the other key things that you'll see come to life a little bit later is Singapore is hub central, and for traveling, it's amazing. Wendy and the boys, they chalked off 18 countries while we were there, and it instilled our sons a love of travel, and both of them are up around 40 already, and now they won't travel anywhere with us unless it's another stamp in their passport. But there were some challenges. The challenges is I was the only one from the Disney Institute that wasn't in Orlando or Anaheim. And we only had 2 people in Anaheim. Everybody else was in Orlando. So when things like this happened, this was my 35th anniversary, we had to do it virtually. Okay, it was fine, but it wasn't the same. So things like that, being disconnected from coworkers, from family. Thankfully, social media, Facebook was our friend. We were Skyping a lot. We had that technology that enabled us to stay connected. Just the sheer time difference. You know, I was still expected to be part of meetings in the U.S., but we were 12 or 13 hours ahead. And at one point in time, my team, every other Friday, had a 9 o'clock meeting every Friday in Orlando. And I was asked to be there. That lasted once. I did it once. Because all of a sudden it's 10 o'clock at night in Singapore. So, okay, that's not going to work. But I was, you know, that distance, and nobody else can understand how far away it is. And so when you're trying to do something that's urgent for you is a challenge. So I would get up at 3 o'clock every single morning just so I could reconnect with people that were still working in Florida, because otherwise they would be gone by the time I got in. So, but we made it a home away from home. So I'm going to share you a couple of examples of what that was. In our client's office, we created this. It was modeled after the Disney University concept that we have at most of our park locations. But we have this beautiful classroom. It was a dedicated Disney Institute space, and until like 18 months ago, when we opened a dedicated space at the Contemporary Resort in Orlando for Disney Institute, this was the only one in the world. And it enabled us to really kind of immerse people in what that feeling, how we wanted them to feel, and get them focused and give them as much Disney as we could, because we're in Singapore, there's no Disney park. So we're there and we're trying to create as much of that as we possibly can. I had another remote office. This is the Kingdom Club at the Disneyland Hotel in Hong Kong. So I didn't have an office there, but that far table down there next to the window is where I would work out, go after work every single day, and that became the Disney Institute satellite office, or Disney Institute East. So as I said, we used this as our home. We took a lot of companies would want to immerse themselves, so we would meet in Hong Kong and we would do all of our work with them in Hong Kong. That would include the field experiences to go into the park. We would go on stage, we could go backstage. They were just absolutely wonderful and so accommodating for us to be there. And Hong Kong Disneyland, though, is very unique. First of all, it is built completely on reclaimed land. That's good that they found the land. The hotels are right here. The park is right there in the middle. This is the best shot I could find of it. But it's on reclaimed land. Now the challenge is we reclaimed the land and then we planted a lot of plants, and it's like a greenhouse. So the humidity is way higher than anything you can imagine, and at certain times of the year you will swim from the hotel to the park. You're not in the water, you're just that wet. It's that bad. So it is a joint venture. So basically anything that you do with China, it's going to be a joint venture of some kind. So the joint venture was that we worked with the Chinese government, and Disney owned 40% of the company, but then we owned the majority of the operating company. I think that's how it originally worked, but they're very close, so like 60-40 type splits. And so that's always it. You don't own all of it, and then you have to have very strict agreements as to how you're going to operate the park. But we knew that going to China was going to be very, very different. We got lucky in Japan. It aligned. It was, just pure gold from the beginning. I've shared with you some of the challenges in Paris. Now we're coming here. Now we need to show, all right, did we pay attention in Paris? And one of the things that we did, first of all, from the very beginning, is really emphasizing how we were going to have a Disney park, but it was going to have a lot of Chinese influence. One of the ways that we did that is we engaged a feng shui master. And for that, and really I keep it up here because I'll never remember how to say, the goal of feng shui is to maximize harmony, balance, and positive energy. It is really about how you design space and to make sure that you have the positive energy flowing through, and also that you're taking into account any other cultural beliefs that may exist to ensure that you're having the most positive, prosperous type of environment that you can. One of the things that we did is we oriented the Disneyland, where generally you go to one of our parks, it's a north-south orientation. In this case, it's not. It's twisted because they wanted to have the mountains right behind there because it would help hold in the positive energy and make sure that it didn't leak out. That's okay. Who knew that was a thing? But it was important that we did that shift to make sure that we were keeping that in. In the front of the park is this whale. Does anybody know what Disney movie this whale's from? It was actually created for Hong Kong Disneyland. So whenever I take clients there, they go, "It's Monstro from Pinocchio." I don't know about you. I never saw Monstro smile. But the idea here it's not as it's about the whale, and it's about the water, and it's about the good fortune and the prosperity and the positive energy that's being generated at the front of the park. We paid attention to a lot of other little details. The ballroom at the Disneyland Hotel was 888 square meters, because that is a lucky number. On the other hand, the number 4 was not. So any elevator that you get on, okay, this is not a good choice of me to pick this one, but it was the easiest one to do because it also didn't have a 5 or a 2 on it. but there's no floors on any of the, so you know how in the U.S. in some places you never get a 13th floor, over there you're not going to get a 4th floor. But a little thing. We also needed to work, this is the area behind the hotel, beautiful maze, gardens. That is what we call Sunny Bay out there, and on a clear day you can walk out there, you can actually see Hong Kong, and that's really goes to how close we are. But in this area, and I'll pull it up, is this is a feng shui boulder, and behind each of our hotels and behind the park there is a boulder, and it is also used to help hold in the positive energy and make sure that it doesn't leak out. And I just thought, you know, some of those little steps that they took to embrace that cultural element and how important that was, you know, all the way from the initial design, was impressive. So we talk a lot about the goal of Disney at the time was East meets West, and how do we make it work, and that's really one of the things that we did. Now, it was still Disney though, and it is still Disney, so we wanted to make sure that we took care of some Disney heritage as we go through. They have their own casting agency window, which we now have in every park around the world, and this is the window that is dedicated to former and current and future cast members, wherever you happen to be. The one at Walt Disney World is actually a window and a door. That's their son Steven celebrating graduation with, this is our adopted daughter and our adopted son. Yeah, that's Hannah and Brandon. You'll meet them when you, okay. But in another example is this attraction. I'm hearing Haunted Mansion. However, in China, this idea of ghosts that exist in the Haunted Mansion and that type of spiritualism is not that's not popular. That's not something that would be well received. So this is the Hong Kong version of that attraction, but it takes the focus is more on like a Pandora's box. Something happens, and then there's a lot of magic and supernatural events that happen, but they had to take a very different theme to it. This one's a lot of fun. So, and then I will be talking more about this one on Friday. Some other Disney heritage things. This is I love talking about windows. Marty Sklar and Tom Fitzgerald, their window is there. They were involved in a lot of the design from Imagineering. And you'll notice the name of the company is the Blank Sheet of Paper Company. And they used to talk about that there is nothing more freeing or intimidating as a blank piece of paper. Anything was possible, but you haven't started yet. And you know, they brought that to life. And then here's one that's going to come with a challenge for all of you. They have contractor stamps, and they have these at Disneyland as well, and several of our parks have these. Elias Disney, Walt's father, was a contractor. But everywhere you go, the date on the contractor stamp is different. And here it is 1892. Well, one of the challenges is Elias didn't become a contractor until 1895 in Chicago. What's the significance of the date? And maybe somebody said like it could be. I don't know. So y'all can just like go figure that out and then let me know at some point later in the cruise. We've been trying because it's you know, at Disneyland, Elias has a window, and then the date is there. I think that's the one that's 1901, which is the year Walt was born. So that kind of makes sense, right? But we don't know. I've asked them, and I haven't found it yet. So y'all work on that. You let me know. Here is a before and after, and the original castle. And if you think the Sleeping Beauty castle in Disneyland is small, whew, because this had the added challenge of there's mountains right behind it, and all of a sudden you come in and it just looks so little, and so we basically came in and we put a hat on it, and so the Castle of Magical Dreams is much taller, slender, and now with the backdrop of the mountains, it doesn't look so teeny and tiny. But that was kind of a challenge, that it was dwarfed, so they had to make some changes there. We're going to go on a more in-depth exploration of Hong Kong, probably like for 8 minutes or something on Friday. So the other park that we did work in while we were based in Singapore was in Tokyo, and I'm just going to tease you here because then we're going to come back to it. That's a hidden Mickey. You're wondering, why did you pick that picture? Because it was the screensaver on my phone for like 5 years. It's actually an official tour guide. We're on a tour, and they showed us this. This is in the queue area of their Indiana Jones attraction, and that's actually that. So I just thought that was interesting that that's what they call that. They have some nice throwbacks, but the main reason here is that they have a 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea attraction. Now, you don't actually go in the Nautilus. Well, you kind of do, but not that Nautilus. Anyway, but the area in the center of Disney Sea is called Volcania, and you are inside a volcano, and it is my favorite spot in any Disney, in my favorite park, any Disney park in the world. And so you'll see some more pictures of this, but we would go and we would do work here. Now the challenge here is it's owned and operated by the Oriental Land Company. So if I wanted to come in and I wanted to take somebody on a tour down Main Street, they were doing the tour down Main Street. And then we had interpreters, because we had to interpret from Japanese into whatever language my client spoke, and then I had to have another interpreter in my ear. Remember I told you how amazing interpreters are? We were doing double and triple interpreters while we were there. But they did a wonderful job, and the attention to detail is very consistent and so well executed there. A couple of other things that I learned to love, and every time I went to Tokyo, this became a priority. And we will revisit this because it's that important. This is just the sampling of some of the popcorn flavors that exist there. There are a couple more that I'll share with you next time, but it is so much fun to go through there, and the queue lines to get popcorn are often more than 30 minutes, and worth every minute of it. So my favorite are the curry, and there's a black pepper popcorn that I've always liked, and in fact I was so inspired that whenever I have popcorn at home, I've got black pepper on it, and so everybody else thinks I'm nuts, but doggone it, it's good. Another one that is really another food item that we're going to come back to again is the mochi, with either strawberry chocolate or vanilla cream in it, and these things are evil, but it is so good. So we'll show you how they're being presented now these days, because it is I mean, the mochi looks the same, but they learned that they're very popular and they need to work on their quantities. So we'll show you what Wendy and I got twice. So again, the work in theme parks, the home park was Hong Kong. We got to go to Tokyo. We'll come back here a little bit. I want to share with you some of the travel highlights. So this is just to represent, okay, where can you go very easily from Singapore? And when I say very easily, it's like within the United States kind of travel. You know, maybe, Florida to Denver, that kind of a flight at its length. Except when you're going to Japan. Japan can be 6 hours, but so maybe that's the San Francisco. But everything is so close, and Singapore is an amazing hub, and you get to go to some really, really cool places. So this was our trip, and if I start trying to share dates, then Wendy's just going to start correcting me. So we did get to go. We did the Golden Triangle in India. I'm going to come back to an India story in just a moment. This is in Nepal near Kathmandu, and that was, again, I can't recommend that experience enough. Unfortunately, soon after we were there, they had a massive earthquake, but from what I understand, it has recovered very, very well. This is Epcot Center. It's amazing. All of a sudden, you start appreciating, okay, Epcot got it right. I felt the same way when we arrived in Venice once. It's like, yeah, okay, Epcot did pretty good right here. The Temple of Heaven, and then obviously you have to do things like this when you are in Beijing. Took a couple of trips down under, and able to do the bridge climb in Sydney. That's a high recommend if you are okay with heights. It's a high. It doesn't matter. Get over it. Just do it. But it is interesting. They take safety very, very seriously. You are connected the entire time. And I got to tell you, when you show up that morning to go on your bridge climb, the first thing that you do is a breathalyzer to make sure that we're good to go. So we were staying with friends and said, oh, no wine tonight. Okay. Well, I think I might have hit. If this jumps ahead, I got to go back. Hang on a second. Yep, I knew. I did it. Hang on. Da, 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 da. Now you're getting previews. Okay. Top left, Bay Crew, Halong Bay, Vietnam. One of the most unique places that you could ever imagine. And you see the junks, the boats there, and you can go and you can stay 1, 2, 3, 4 nights there. This is Thailand, the Xi'an in China, the terracotta warriors. Now we went here, we were really excited about this, and we thought our sons would really enjoy it, but if you ask them what they remember about Xi'an, they remember that we did geocaching and they found something in a bush that was outside of this. Sunrise at Angkor Wat in Siem Reap, Cambodia, and then a place that we went quite a bit because it was very, very close. We could hop a quick plane for $29 or take a bus, was Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. All of these right in the neighborhood, really. And I ate that entire plate. This was in southern China, I think it's Guilin, China. I stole the picture of Wendy and her mom. Her mother cannot pass anybody like doing Tai Chi, dancing, putting on a costume. She's going to stop. She's going to take part of it. And I didn't take the picture because I'm over in the corner going, oh no. And then pandas in Chengdu. Mount Everest. By plane, we didn't like climb it or anything. And then on the bottom right there, we have a tiger. And I wanted to share a little bit more about the tiger because this is the dream come true example. Way back before we moved to Singapore, I was home. Imagine that, I was home. And Brian had asked me, he loved tigers. And he goes, Daddy, have you ever been to India? I said, no, I haven't. And he goes, well, if you ever go to India, I want to go. I said, oh, really? Why? He goes, because I want to see a tiger. Okay. I must not really been paying attention because my response was, you can go to Animal Kingdom anytime you want and see a tiger. And he goes, not a wild tiger. And so early on when we had our chance to go there, we went and we were on safari, and we had a couple of nights at this, and it was Ranthambore National Park there. And the first day we go in, and I don't think we saw more than a butterfly. And we're and I have notorious bad luck seeing animals. I've broken that since, but at the time it's like I can't see anything. And but we got up the next morning and we went out to the Jeep to get on, and next to the Jeep there was a tiger print that was that big. there had been a tiger in our camp that night. And there were tiger prints next to the swing set that our sons were on during dinner that night. And so things got real very fast, and then we went in, and our guide was really good, heard distress calls of other wildlife and birds, and we ran around, and all of a sudden we stopped, and this emerged from me about as close as you are to our Jeep right there. And I'm taking pictures, but it's hard to do it because I'm crying. I'm so happy. Everybody's so happy. We couldn't believe that we'd actually seen it. And so Brian got to see his wild tiger. If you have not been on any type of a safari experience, that's another thing. I can't recommend it enough. When you're there and you're in the wild and you're face to face with these amazing creatures, you forget everything else that is ever going on. So some travel highlights. There's a couple of reasons I wanted to share. I wanted to inspire you, and hopefully if you make it over to that part of the world, there's a lot. And it's all relatively, there's a lot to do that's relatively close. There's a lot that's far away, but there's a lot that's relatively close. And the other reason is, if you are interested, or maybe you have something planned and you want to talk about that, these are places that we've been, and we'd be more than happy to share our experience with you, to assist you with that. Now, you probably wonder, okay, well, what about Shanghai? Shanghai Disney had not opened yet. So we're going to come back to the experience that we had there at the end of the week. But this is, it's an amazing park. But I was able to go up and work there on 2 or 3 different occasions. The first is, just like Hong Kong, this is a joint venture with the Chinese government. They create an entity, and Disney and that entity have a partnership, and they own and operate the park and the resorts there. And so I had the honor of going and meeting with their side of the joint venture group, and I did 3 days of training on the Disney approach, on leadership excellence and guest engagement and quality service, so that they could have a deeper understanding about how Disney thinks about those key areas. And it was fascinating, 100% interpreted, but it was, I was so excited to just be a part of something, and it was still big mud holes at the time, so it was not a park yet. And then I was able to go back right before opening, and they had invited in like the partner organizations like that we have, like Coca-Cola. I don't know if Kodak was still in the mix at that point, but some of those corporate sponsors and those individuals came in, and I was able to do a session with them in Shanghai, and that one included some extremely high-level Disney executives. So that was a little sketchy, but obviously I survived. So our time in Singapore, you think, I did do work. We traveled a lot. We took advantage of it. It lasted about 4.5 years. And then in 2015, on Wendy's and my 25th anniversary, we packed up and moved out on our 25th anniversary. It was stressful. And we moved to a hotel for a few nights so that we could then, wrap everything up. But then we got to go have a absolutely authentic Singapore experience. For the first time, we got our Singapore sling at the Long Bar. You probably heard of the Singapore sling. And it is an obnoxiously expensive drink. I think it's like $30. But you got to do what you got to do, right? So yeah, that was one of the last things that we got to do there. I can't overemphasize the value of the time there. We loved every moment of it. It is absolutely our second home. And we can talk about Singapore all day. Somebody else approached us yesterday. They're actually planning. I know somebody here is already booked on the adventure, and then somebody else asked us, "Oh, we're going to Singapore. Can you? What's fun to do?" Okay, that's not a 2-minute conversation. So we're very happy to talk about it. And so we're gone all of that time. I was very, very, very fortunate that my circumstances were I was still representing Disney Institute there. So when I came back, I still had a job. That's usually you go on an overseas assignment, your job's not guaranteed. Generally, you'll get something, but you don't. But I just went back to the job that I had. It was great. But I got to tell you, moving to Asia, it's pretty easy. Moving home was hard. It was really, really hard. And it was this idea of, and it's funny because I used to teach this when I was with the World Showcase Fellowship Program. I talked about culture shock of people moving to the U.S. and the culture shock that they might experience when they go back home. And I'm thinking, no, we'll be fine. Coming home to your friends and family who have continued on with their lives, you know, in Orlando or where, they are interested for about 5 minutes. And then everything is back to normal, and it was as if it never happened. Our son Brian was at school one time, and had a teacher actually tell him, "I don't want to hear you say Singapore again." And it had been the last, 4.5 years of his life. And so it was that difficulty of coming back, and we had all of this stuff happen, and then you come back and everybody else had continued on with their lives or had their stuff happen, but it had not, we thought we were going to come back, oh, we did that, and we talk about this and show pictures and all that, and it just there was no interest, and it was really hard, and we struggled getting resettled in that, and that didn't lead directly to retiring, but when you come back and you have an experience like that, it was life-changing, and ultimately, though, life-changing in every positive way that you possibly imagine. If those of you who are still earlier in your careers and you have the opportunity to ever consider doing an international assignment, I mean, just jump on it and seize it, hold on to it, and get everything that you can out of it. You will not regret it. A couple of other cool things happened when we got back. Not immediately, but I got to celebrate my 40th anniversary, and yeah, you saw in the video already who's the tallest in the family, but yeah, you got there's the beard. I promise. I told you about the beard. Okay, you're going to see more than the beard in a minute. I had this was my last major milestone, and I had somebody ask me yesterday, well, why didn't you just, you worked officially 43 years, 11 months and a day. Why didn't you stay to 44? Well, 44 is one more than 43. It wasn't a milestone, but I had lost my drive. 40 I was focused on 40, but 45 just didn't seem that compelling. I do have a plan for it. I'll share that in a minute. But it was immediately after this picture, all of a sudden, or not immediately, but really soon after this, we went into a period of time that was impacted by the pandemic. And then everything that we didn't travel. Everything that we did nothing face-to-face. It was all virtual. And doing work like this, when you're face-to-face, takes energy. It takes focus. Nothing compared to having to do it over a Zoom call. I would wake up after a 2-hour Zoom call and I'd be drenched because of the focus. It was so much work, and it just wasn't the same. I'm not somebody who's going to connect Zoom and have a relationship and be able to make those strong connections. That's not me. So that's really kind of what led, even though we started traveling again, because I got to do this. Went a couple of more trips to, I went to Egypt, I went to the Arab Emirates, I went to Bahrain, and I went to Kuwait. And that was wonderful. They actually asked me to stay beyond when I told them I was going to leave, if I could help with this, and absolutely I did. I'm glad I did. It was a lot of fun, but it was kind of the rare part of it. All that to say, when I look back and I think about what I miss the people, obviously. Somebody just asked me today if I knew somebody that works there. Absolutely. And then all of a sudden all these memories start flying back, and I miss being able to work with them. And I also see a lot of my colleagues going to the cool places, and I'm not with them. But one thing I've always told people, he said, oh, you got to travel. Isn't that special? That's really glamorous. Yeah, until it's not. But my belief is that you do it anyway because it'll change your life, and it has changed ours, and it has given the gift that it has given our sons. We can't put a price on it. So when it came time to actually retiring, we got together. You think I had a party? Yeah, more than one. A colleague of mine in California created a poster. Look closely. So these were all over the place where we had the party. It was at the Boardwalk Resort, and it was 100% pirate themed, as it should be. And it was a nice bookend. And it's like, okay, well, now what happens? You know, you work for a company for, you know, almost 44 years. You are now not working anymore. What are you going to do? Yeah, we had plans. We'd gone to the Panama Canal earlier, before I retired. This is us having breakfast on the Amalfi Coast. My number one dream was to go to Italy. That's one of the places I had not been. And we were there for a month, and this is how we kind of wrapped up. And it was everything that we wanted it to be. And then on the other side, we had another project that year, is we wanted to finish off visiting all 50 states. And we did that in Montana. Now, notice the hair in addition to the beard. Yeah, and Wendy and I had a conversation soon after this, and therefore but she, I mean, keep in mind, she inspired me to get the beard, have the beard in the first place. So it's kind of, this was kind of a funny story. I shared it with somebody earlier. Montana was our 50th state. We arrived in Montana on the east side of Montana. And if you've been to Montana, you know that the really cool part of Montana is on the west and northwest side of Montana. We talk about Glacier National Park. We went there later, but on this trip we weren't. So we got to the border, we got out, we did this, and then we found the welcome center. That was actually kind of hard to find. We get out, we take our picture, we go in, and we tell the person there that we're excited, this is our 50th state, we're here. We're thinking that they would be happy for us and celebrate with us, and she was not happy. Because she knew that if we came in the east side of Montana, she goes, there's nothing here. You're just doing this to check off a box. Not wrong in that case. So we have a rule, if we ever travel somewhere, if we want to count a country or a state or anywhere to say that we had been there, at the bare minimum. Ideally, we want to spend the night, maybe spend a significant amount of time, but in some cases you can't do that. So we require ourselves to leave an airport or train station. Those do not count at all. If y'all want to steal this little criteria, you're welcome to. And then you have to go and have a meal and use the restroom. That's for us. So, what does retirement life look like on a daily basis for a Disney retiree? Well, this Disney retiree, this is what it looks like. Every single morning, Wendy and I get up and we go for a mile walk. We walk Magic. You saw Magic in the video. There she is. She's our almost 10-year-old miniature schnauzer, and I can honestly say that whenever we do travel, this is what we worry about. Is she getting fed? Is she getting walked? But you saw Steven holding her in the video. Steven's the one that can pick her up, turn her upside down, all of this stuff, and he's in charge. But we feel a lot better when Brian's there because it's really his dog, and he's like dog daddy. But I'll just let that sit for a couple of minutes. Okay, never mind. Then I had mentioned earlier that I love to run, so I do that. I visit a theme park at least 5 days a week. A lot at Disney, but also the other place because we love it. We love that as well. We just went to Epic Universe, the new Universal Park, right before the cruise started. And if you want to talk about that, we can talk about that. But why do I do that? Well, first of all, I'm fanatic and I'm trying to get steps in. But it is so much fun to go, not be working, and just watch and listen and be able to just, I'm not pressured to do anything. I don't have to get in a queue. I can just enjoy it. And I figured, you know what, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to get tired of it. Nope. And, you know, I also thought for sure when I had retired that after so long, and that's all I knew, and I worked for one company my entire career, that I would second guess it, and I would say, I can't believe I did that. I made a mistake. I shouldn't have done that. Nope. But then I get to do this, and how cool is that? And then we generally are planning our next trip, and a lot of them are quick, small trips, and but we just do that, and we've very quickly adapted to it. And I'm so fortunate that Wendy and I share our love for travel, and that's our focus right now. We have learned lessons from others that, you know, do it when you can do it, because you never know when you can't, or that it's limited. So we're taking advantage of that, and I think that's really good advice. So I mentioned earlier, you know, about not making it to 45 years. I've had a dream for a long time that when I retired, I didn't want to leave Disney. I wanted to continue doing something, but it was very specific what I want to do, and that is, I want to be an engineer on the steam train. And I was trained to do it, but as a manager back then, and I was good at it. What else do you expect me to say, right? Okay, but I loved it. And if you're not familiar, so again, real, authentic, antique steam engines brought to Walt Disney World from the Yucatan Peninsula. They used to haul sugar cane, and they were refurbished and converted from coal to diesel, and they are just wonderful. But when you're driving that train, you are authentically, you know, driving a real steam engine, and it's just so special. So part of the job, obviously, is driving the train and making sure the boiler doesn't explode. That's important too on a steam engine. But here's the job: you drive the train, you stop the train, you step off the train, you hold babies and get your picture taken. Repeat. I think that sounds pretty good. And now, I thought maybe I'd do it sooner. Right now, I have no timeline on when to do it, but the good news is with Disney is that if I were to ever go back and we're able to pull this off, then I could go work a day a week and they will bridge my time. So who knows, I may get that 45th award after all. We'll see if we do that. So this brings us to the end of the sequence. And obviously there's a lot more hidden in some of the highlights that I've shared that time doesn't allow to dive into. But again, if any of you are interested in diving deeper, we've had some wonderful conversations around the ship, and we're still together for 6 more days, so there's plenty of time. Next time we're going to take a walking tour of, well, it's a photo tour of us walking in the Magic Kingdom, and with a focus on attention to detail, a focus on some of the things that makes Disneyland unique to bring that experience to life. Because when you talk about a service experience that you receive, it's delivered through 3 mechanisms. Number 1, service is delivered through people, and at Disney it's delivered through the cast members. It's delivered through the processes that are in place. Is it easy to do business? Is it not? Are there any hassle factors that, you know, how do things happen in sequence A, B, C, and D? Is it easy to understand? All of those kinds of things that happen. And then it's the setting, or the place is the 3rd factor. So that's what we're going to focus on in the Magic Kingdom. That will be, let's see, tomorrow's Monday, so Tuesday at 11 o'clock we will do that. Until then, I wish everyone celebrating the happiest Mother's Day possible. You're on a cruise ship. That's got to be a really good start. And thank you for joining, and we'll see you on Tuesday.